Do non-state armed groups follow IHL in cross-border conflicts? Imagine a group fighting across borders, not representing a government but still claiming to follow rules of war. Do they really stick to international humanitarian law? Let's find out. Non-state armed groups are bound by the rules of international humanitarian law, which include the Geneva Conventions and their additional protocols. These laws are meant to protect civilians and those no longer fighting, like wounded soldiers or prisoners. Even though these groups are not official armies, they still have legal obligations. Common Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions applies to all non-international armed conflicts. It sets basic protections for civilians and fighters who are hors de combat, meaning out of action. If a non-state armed group controls territory and has enough organization, they are also expected to follow additional Protocol 2. This protocol offers more detailed protections in conflicts that are not between states. Members of non-state armed groups do not get prisoner of or status if they are captured, unlike soldiers from recognized armies. But they still have rights under international law, including humane treatment and protection for civilians and detainees. In return, these groups are expected to respect the same rules for civilians and fighters under their control. In real life, how well these groups follow IHL varies a lot. Some groups try to interpret or partially follow the rules, seeing them as a framework created by states for their own benefit. Others set up internal rules to limit harm to civilians and treat detainees humanely. But many groups lack the capacity or willingness to fully obey these laws, leading to violations like attacks on civilians, unlawful detention, or mistreatment of prisoners. International organizations like the International Committee of the Red Cross work directly with non-state armed groups. They offer confidential talks and practical advice on how to respect IHL. When these groups control territory for a while, they often take on responsibilities similar to governments, including protecting human rights and following humanitarian rules. From the perspective of international humanitarian law, non-state armed groups are legally required to follow core rules in all conflicts, including cross-border ones. Their respect for these laws helps protect civilians and those no longer fighting. But enforcing these rules is often difficult because these groups are not official state actors. Their political motives and lack of organization make accountability hard. There are mechanisms to hold violators accountable, but they are limited. Victims often find it hard to get justice or reparations. Still, the international community continues to encourage and support efforts to improve compliance. In short, non-state armed groups are legally bound to follow international humanitarian law in cross-border conflicts. While many do try, actual adherence varies widely. Efforts to engage, educate, and build capacity aim to strengthen respect for these important rules and protect civilians during times of war.